Hello, it's Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and this week I'm bringing you a reading on the topic of the week of Gevurah. Gevurah, this is the second week of the Omer, and it is the week of strength or boundaries as we see surrounding ourselves with some sort of limitations and restraints and restrictions that can help us to know where we end and the other begins. And to that end, I have for strength and boundaries my paperweight from Israel, which is a lion representing strength here, and it is the ancient seal of the Hebrews from 500 BCE. Lashem Eved Yerovam is what it says in the ancient Hebrew script. And so we have a lion watching over our reading today, as well as our golem from Prague, whose chest says Emet on it, meaning truth. So these are our strength characters who are watching over our reading today. We're going to do a full spread reading for the week of Gevurah and see what's coming up for us in this coming week. So we're going to take all our Hebrunes, shuffle them up, lay them down, and see what Gevurah has for us to offer. All right, first thing we do is we pull out all the face down. All right, let's take a look at what's left. So this week I'm going to actually turn the ones that are turned upside right so we can read them more clearly. We'll turn them all so that they're facing face up. Leave them where they are in the spread, but make it more possible to see what letters we're dealing with. Okay, so at the very, very top of our reading, we have the letter Shin, and the Shin is the mother letter of fire. I love that Shin is showing up here at the top of our reading because it would indicate that fire is a protection or a boundary or a limit that we need to tap into this week. How can we bring fire into our strength? How can we use fire for strength in this coming week? Shin is this mother letter of fire, and so it speaks to the stars and the moon and the sun in the sky. The Shekhinah, who is the indwelling presence of the divine, and she is the one who gives us those restraints and protections and boundaries. She is the one who dwells within us and creates through fire and transforms through fire. The word shini, which means change, and shuva, which means return, both begin with shin. So we have things that are transforming, and we have limits and boundaries that are given to us and protections from Shekhinah this coming week, very much at the top of our reading. Next we have the Aleph, which is the mother letter of air, and of course we know we can't have fire without air. Air is the number 1 in Gematria. It's the first letter of the alphabet, and it is the letter that represents as above, so below. You can see the Yud above and the Yud below and a Vav between. So we have connecting and dividing happening between heaven and earth. Aleph is the first letter of the word El and Adam, both God and man are represented in the Aleph, and that separation and connection between the two. The mother letter of air gives us that space to breathe. So below this fire in the sky, we have the air in the atmosphere, in the breath here, and it's connecting us with the divine. It's also the letter that represents worth and cattle. So there are things that we need to tend that will bring us worth and value in our lives. And so what's that all about? What can we protect and tend ourselves in this week of Gevurah that will bring us to some form of worth? And there's our Aleph. Just below that we have Beit, which is the next letter in the Aleph Bet. Beit is the letter that means home. It is about where we dwell. Where do we dwell in the world? We dwell in our bodies. We dwell on the earth itself. It is the binary transformation of life and death. So we're somewhere in that continuum between having been born and before we die. And it's where we dwell. Where in that space do we dwell between life and death? It's the first letter of Torah, Bereshit, in the beginning. So it's this letter that's presenting us a boundary around the edge of that Torah, the very first letter of Torah, Beit. It's also the letter that represents Shabbat in the week. So rest is indicated here with the Beit. It is the letter that rules over the planet Saturn in the sky and the mouth in the body. So Beit is here as well, giving us limitations and restrictions on where we live, how we live in our bodies, where we live in the world. I'm going to bring us down to the lower right corner. We have the Yud. The Yud is the smallest of all letters, and it's sort of that building block. You can see each of the letters has a Yud in it somewhere. They all begin with Yud, that as a dot where the pen hits the page or where the chisel hits the stone or wood. The Yud is the smallest of all the letters. It's the first letter of the divine name, the Yud, He, Vav, He. So it is that beginning piece of each letter, the start of a thing. So it represents that opening boundary of the next thing. And it's the building blocks of all things, the atom, the seed, the thing that makes up all the different parts of the universe, that very, very smallest piece. And it's the number 10, so it's got that oneness of the Aleph times 10, an ultimate manifestation of the one. And that comes to the Yud. Yud, which also means hand. So Yod. Yod is the hand in the body. And so how are we creating right now? What are we using our hands to define in terms of boundaries, in terms of restraints and limitations? How does controlling our hands help us in creating what we need to see? Yud. Interestingly, we have the letter Mem over here, Mem, which is the mother letter of water. So we have all three of the mother letters here, Shin, Aleph, and Mem, in their appropriate places. Shin in the sky, with the fires, the lights of the sky, the stars, the moon, the sun. Aleph in the center, with air, and Mem underneath, with water. Mem is a womb space, the amniotic fluid through which we are all gestated and born. Mem is those waters of life, the Mayim Chaim, and also cleansing through a mikvah, waters and baths. These things, these mother letters, they define the different spaces in the universe. Again, the sky, the air, and the water. And we are the earth on some level too, here on the planet, made up of all of our little yuds and living in our little houses with the Beit. So we have these definitions of the different spaces and how things are separated into different places so that they can flourish within their space. And I think that's a big part of what this reading is saying right now. In the center of everything right here, we have the Lamed, which is the first letter of the word Lev, meaning heart. And the heart of the reading, there is the heart. And the heart is also a organ that has to have its limitations. If it goes too fast, it's not in health. And if it goes too slow, it's also not in health. So the heart itself has to have its boundaries. It has to have its edges. It has to have the vessels through which the blood flows. Lamed is about teaching and learning, limud v'lamed. It's about reaching up with heart toward the divine. It's the one letter that reaches above the line in Hebrew. So it's about reaching up with hope toward divinity. And it is the foundation of action in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation. So we have action here in the center of our reading, action coming from heart, coming from a place of knowing where we should be working. And action also represented in the yad with the hand of the yud. If we go down a little bit to the right, we have the ayin. The ayin is the letter which means an eye. So it's something of the divine watching over us, or us being able to see our way forward. Maybe once we have listened to our hearts, once we are tapped in to the mother letters of the elements, where we found our place in our home, and again, where we found our place with our heart, then we can see what the next thing is to do in our world. And over here on the left, we have the kaf, which is the palm of the hand. And I see it as the palm of the hand lifting us up of the Shekhinah, who is up here with the shin, or sheltering us from the sun in the sky, or from the rain or the winds or whatever else might be coming down upon our heads. The kaf, which is a giving and receiving. It's the hand that can both oppress but also shelter. It's the hand that can lift up or knock something over. So we've got the yad here with the yud, and we also have the palm of the hand with the kaf. So there's something about those restrictions, finding out where we are in those boundaries. How are we using our hands? How are we using our heart? What restrictions and limitations do we need to give ourselves in order to have a healthy relationship with the divine, with the Shekhinah, with ourselves, and with others? Down near the bottom of the reading, we have the letter Tet, a little bit to the left, and that is also a womb space. Is the number 9 in Gematria, and so it has this connotation of the 9 months of gestation, in a similar way that the Mem is the number 40, and it's the 40 weeks of gestation. And this looks a little bit like a cup or a womb. And it is the letter that begins the word Tov, meaning good. So a cup or a womb with something gestating good within it. And that's very low on our reading, but it's like shoring up or the foundation of our containers, our restrictions, that Mem, which is a contained womb, and the Tet, which is a contained womb as well. Something gestating here in this week of boundaries. And in our last letter here, we have the letter Chet. And the letter Chet is the letter that means life, Chai, life, and it means Choshek, meaning darkness. And those are boundaries, again, between light and darkness, between life and death. All of those things have the edges that we need. Chet is also the letter that begins the word chuppah, meaning marriage canopy, and it has to do with contracts and commitments with another, with the divine, with oneself. Chet is the foundation of speech in the Sefer Yetzirah, so being able to speak contracts and create covenants with each other. It's the number 8 in Gematria, so it has that infinity loop of the 8-ness that is here, that represents the infinite. One more than the days of creation, 7 days of creation plus 1 is 8, which equals the infinite. So as we look at this reading for the week of Gevurah, we have the 3 mother letters, the sun in the stars and the moon in the sky, the Aleph representing the mother letter of air, that atmosphere, the air that we breathe, that keeps us alive in the space between fire and water. The Mem, which is the water element, the deep, the amniotic fluid from which we are all born in the ocean of our mothers. And we have Beit here, our home, somewhere here between water and sky. We're dwelling in these spaces, and they are separate, and they're also interconnected. So boundaries are necessary to distinguish from one from the other, and to give us a space to live. But they're all interconnected and intertwined. The Yud representing the divine, the Yud He Vav He, the letter that represents the verb to be in all of its forms, past, present, and future, as well as that foundation building blocks of atoms that create all the letters and create all the stuff of the universe. In the center, we have the Lamed, our heart, the Lev, that reaches up with connection and reaches down into the earth as well, and represents learning and teaching here. the eye, which gives us the opportunity to see better when we have more creative boundaries, when we have some limitations that allow us to see things more clearly. The kaf, which is the palm of the hand, lifting us up and sheltering us from whatever might come to harm, another restriction or boundary. And the tet, giving us a womb space, another container to gestate within, and brings us to the idea of chai, life, and connection with another, commitments and contracts with the divine and the infinite at the base, shoring all of this up, all of these restrictions and boundaries that gives us the ability to determine where we exist in the world. So this is what we have for the week of Gevurah, and how that will play out for you as we go through each of the days of the Omer. If you're interested in watching, I have very brief readings over on Instagram each day, talking about each of the individual Sephirah within the week's Sephirah. So if you'd like to follow me over there, I'll put a link in the description. Thank you so much, and I will see you here next time.